What's up, everyone? I am ND Sean 45.
And I am Ryan Weeks Productions for Vel.
And this is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish Power Hour from the Two Irish Brothers show. Ryan, I'm surprised you weren't jamming out to Rush just now.
I didn't even hear a song, not going to lie. I didn't even hear
Really?
it. Yeah, it was just the fan, I think.
You got the headphones going. You didn't hear Rush playing?
Mm-mm.
I'll be damned. I mean, everybody who's watching, you guys heard the music, right? I want to make sure it's not a problem on my end.
It might have been your end because I didn't hear anything and I was just blank silence. But nevertheless.
See, because I would look pretty well. People will say I look stupid anyway. Really?
Yep.
But you guys hear me talking though.
Yep.
So I'm going like this, and you guys aren't hearing anything.
Nope.
Wow. Well, I'll be damned. All right. Well, you know what? The music's not the important thing here. Let's jump right into discussing the latest news. Oh, and by the way, we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis now, but we are going to have the link in the description or in the live chat. So if anybody wants to come on the show and share their thoughts and not just be in the comment section, you are welcome to do so. So here it is in the live chat section. Just click that link. It'll take you to StreamYard's what they call the backstage area, and we'll bring you on accordingly. So
this is where we need Golden Playbook and Notre Dame 2164 to get on here.
Yeah, I would say I would say you guys comment the most.
Yeah, and I want to ask Notre Dame 2164 about those dishes because we never really get to talk about those dishes. So I want to just make sure that everything's good.
Man, I just aside from the dishes, I just see. Listen, I was playing Rush. I was playing a Rush song, Limelight to be exact, and I'm blasting it through my speaker here, right into the part of the speaker of the computer, and I don't know. Maybe I screwed something up with the settings, but that's when you guys saw me going like that. That's what I was doing. Is I was jamming out to Rush. So, all right, I'm gonna have to fix something. So, but enough with the formalities. The song doesn't matter. Maybe I can do a little. Maybe I can create an intro for the live stream. But anyway, so Ryan, first piece of business to talk about, some big news, and I think this is big news. It sounds like Notre Dame's football staff is finally complete. Marcus Freeman completes the staff with the hiring of Joe Rudolph, who was the offensive line coach at Virginia Tech for his most recent stop. But he spent the longest time with the Wisconsin Badgers. So with that hire, what's your thoughts on it? Good, bad? You like how the overall staff turned out? Myself personally, I did, but you have your opinions too.
I don't really know too much. I'm going to be honest, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I know much about offensive line coaches. The only thing I know is that Notre Dame's O-line U. So, but when I look at the hiring of Joe Rudolph, everything I've read about him is that a lot of people are saying it's an elite hire. So I guess I'm just going to take the national media's word for it. Obviously, he's used to being in a program in Wisconsin that is like Notre Dame in terms of they're a ground and pound, run down your throat type of offense. That's what Notre Dame has been for the longest time, probably its entire history. So I think that's good. But like I said, everyone I've talked to or, read the reports about him, it seems like an elite hire. So I'm happy with it.
Well, and the thing is, I'm not going to pretend like I'm some expert either when it comes to assistant coaches. Like, oh man, Joe Rudolph, he's a household name. Everybody should know everything about Joe Rudolph. How could you not? I mean, they're assistants. They're not going to be exactly well known unless you're like some of the guys that Notre Dame had been talking to as far as the offensive coordinator position goes, like Coach Ludwig, who had made a name for himself calling plays at Utah, or what's his name, Klein from Kansas State. Yeah, those are guys that do become household names when it comes to coordinators. But let's face it, the majority of these guys you're going to have to do your research for. I mean, we work during the day, so we can't do this 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So I had to look him up. I mean, come on. But yeah, based on his track record, I think he was a good hire. I know a lot of people were hoping for what's his name? The guy from Georgia.
He basically said no. That was the deal with that. He told him no. So
yeah, but still, though, I'm not gonna complain about this hire. As long as
I will say the one thing that does worry me about Joe Rudolph is I'm
that?
not gonna say that it was all his fault, but Virginia Tech this past year had one of the worst offensive lines in the college football. Now that could just be they didn't have the talent. But talking to my buddy Connor, he was pissed that Notre Dame took him. But Connor also said that the offensive line was terrible. Grant Wells, who is one of the top transfer quarterbacks in last year's class, transferred to Virginia Tech, and obviously they got a new coach and everything, and so they were kind of high on him. Well, guess what happened to Grant Wells this year? Most sacked quarterback in college football. So, I mean, I'm not saying that's completely on Joe Rudolph. That just may be because Virginia Tech was a terrible team this past year.
They were
so
a
they may not
mess.
have had a lot to work with, but still.
Well, I mean, a lot of coaches. It's not like you said. It's not necessarily because they're bad, but just teams in general are going to have bad seasons. I mean, Lou Holtz, when he started with Notre Dame back in '86, he he was 5-6 in his first season, and we saw how that went from there. But yeah, by the way, Notre Dame 2164 says, Ryan, my dishes are done. So
okay, if your dishes are done, then get on the link and get in the chat, man.
we got one coming. We'll bring him in just a second. But one thing I do need to say too is, it's amazing that just because these hires that have been made lately in Joe Rudolph, who like I said, I wouldn't expect anybody to do their thorough research on unless that's what you're paid to do. But guys like him, Jared Parker, it still amazes me the amount of complaining that goes on. It's like, okay, I get it. It's not, maybe it's not your homemade, well-known coach, but these are guys that have the potential to get the job done. Because what really helps with the coaching staff, from the head coach all the way down, is that chemistry. So these guys can become household names. So I just wish people would give these guys a chance to do their job before the criticism comes.
And we also do know for a fact that Notre Dame has some of the best offensive linemen in the country, maybe the best offensive line in the country going into next season. So you don't think that's going to help out whoever they hire as an O-line coach this year?
Say that again. Oh,
I said, they've got the best offensive line in the country, probably, most likely is. And you don't think that they're going to look at this and be like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter who we hire as offensive line coach. That's a plus to have, no matter who's coaching the team.
All right. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, dude. When you said that before, you were kind of cutting out. So there's definitely something going on my end with the equipment. So that was my bad. Yeah, exactly. You have seasoned guys on the line already that are pretty settled in. So it shouldn't, in my opinion, it should not be a problem for Joe Rudolph to come in and get acclimated with these guys like Joe Alt and I know Patterson's gone. Why am I blanking on names?
J-Pat is gone, but we have Blake Fisher.
Yep, Blake Fisher's
Joe
back.
Alt, who both of whom are projected first-round picks in 2024. So, and also think about Billy Schrauth, who as a freshman is looking to be the starting right guard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you got to see that kid's tape, but he's a true freshman
Not
and he's
yet.
going to be starting. Oh my God, dude, he took basically Rocco Spindler's job. So that tells you how good this kid is.
And Rocco Spindler, I mean, we haven't really got to see much of him, but that guy's a beast. I can tell you that much.
Yeah,
that kid has the size, and if that's the case, and he's taking his job and knocking him down on the depth chart, that says a lot. So you ready?
A lot of
you
people
ready?
are saying he's like the next Quentin Nelson, so that's high praise.
That says a lot. So you ready? You ready to take a quote caller, for lack of a better term?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let's bring on somebody who has been a longtime viewer of us on these streams, the one, the only Golden Playbook. Golden Playbook.
What's up, man?
This is Howard Stern, WNBC. You guys get that reference, right? I know we have a lot of younger folks. Okay.
Really quick before we get into, we let Golden Playbook say his piece. Where have you been the last couple shows, man? We missed you. It's been like a month.
I've been pretty busy the last few times, but
no, you're good, man.
All I know is anybody who takes the time to watch a couple of schmoes like me, Ryan, and Ben when he's on, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind, man?
I really love your show, by the way, man.
Thanks.
Well, we try anyway. We like to think we put out a good product, but overall, we're just here to have some fun.
And then hopefully you're subbed over to Week Zero Productions and been watching and tuning in to our podcast, because if you like what me and Sean do, like I said, that's the go-to place.
Oh yeah, I'm subbed to that channel.
Yeah, so go on, hit us with your thoughts, man. What's on your mind?
Man, this new coach, I'm excited for him. Sorta.
You talking about Joe Rudolph, or are you talking about Jared Parker?
They'll
say we got two new
coaches. Joe Rudolph and Jared Parker.
Yeah, like I had even said when Jared Parker got hired, I said that we dodged a bullet with getting Andy Ludwig, because dude was not going to recruit. The offense might have played really well, but he was going to get you a bunch of 3 stars, and that was pretty much it. So, like I said, I agree with you. I think Jared Parker hiring, and I really like the Joe Rudolph hiring as well as the hiring of Coach Gino as the quarterback's coach, who, I think he was the one that developed Desmond Ridder, as we spoke last week. So anytime you develop a guy that's playing in the NFL and is probably going to be the starter for the Atlanta Falcons next year, it says a lot about you.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset about the fan base. Some of the fan base, they just are negative about stuff. Like they're just saying that Notre Dame's going to have a bad season.
Well, I there's a couple of Facebook groups that I help run, and for the most part, listen, whenever I've talked about this, I'm not saying that it's all across a fan base. The majority of our fan base are true fans and great people. And I'm not expecting everybody to say that, oh yeah, we're going undefeated next year, we're going to make the playoffs and win the national championship. But the thing is, like you mentioned, when you see all this negativity and they're poo-pooing over every hire, over this decision, over that decision, or this player leaves and this player, so on and so forth. It's like, if that's how you truly feel and you're going to just shit on everything and constantly be negative, then why are you still in the fan base and, suffering through it? This is ridiculous.
I know. Like, go watch another team if you don't like it.
I was actually going to watch. I was going to ask you Golden Playbook, because I don't know if you're on Twitter too much, or I'm sure you are, knowing everything the Notre Dame fans say, that 1% of our fan base that just talks about everything. But the biggest thing recently, beside from the hiring of Joe Rudolph, is that On3 came out with their recent recruiting rankings, and CJ Carr, let's just say he took a massive drop, goes from the number 5 ranked quarterback in the class to the number 12th ranked quarterback in the class, drops all the way from the number 54 overall player in the class all the way to 254, dropped 200 spots for basically no reason. So What are your thoughts on that? A lot of Notre Dame fans I've seen on Twitter talking about this is just, it's a conspiracy towards Notre Dame. This is why people say Notre Dame don't get recruits, because when these kids commit to Notre Dame, these sites immediately lower they lower from a 5-star to a 4-star. They take them completely out of the top 100 for rankings. Meanwhile, a kid that just committed to Alabama and Julian Sayin, who was a lower ranked prospect than CJ Carr, ever since he's committed to Alabama, is now the number 1 quarterback in his class. So what are your thoughts on that, man?
What was that again?
What do you think?
Sorry, you kind of cut out a little.
No, you're good. You're good. Do you think there's a conspiracy for Notre Dame recruits?
No, not really. No.
Okay.
Some people say, what's your guys' thoughts about the whole buyout thing though? Do you guys think that's just
with
is
Andy
that the
Ludwig?
truth?
Ludwig,
is that all true or is it fake?
No, it came out actually that he got cold feet late, wanted to stay at Utah, for because his daughter is a student at Utah, and he basically just got cold feet last second.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people call Jack Swarbrick a whole bunch of names for that, but
I'm just
I
going
don't think it was that.
I'm just going to straight up say it. People are stupid and they jump the gun before they get all the information.
Yeah.
I mean, they're ready to badmouth guys on the administration, say that they're not committed to winning. Well, when that's what you get paid to do, you're going to care about winning. And the fact that people would even say otherwise is just absurd. And I think really what it all comes down to is Andy Ludwig. He's been making a lot of noise with his play calling for Utah, and they've done pretty well under his play calling. Nobody denies that. That's why Marcus Freeman wanted him. But if he has his reasons for staying put at Utah, then I respect that. And I think really what it comes down to is this: all the naysayers, they were just pissed off, and I've said this for a few shows now. They were just pissed off because they didn't get the guy that they wanted. Simple enough. That's what it boils down to. We hire a guy in-house who, again, is not a household name, and of course that negative 1%, they're gonna scream bloody murder. They're going to say, "Oh, Jack Swarbrick should be fired. He doesn't care. This, that, whatever." Notre Dame's cheap. Which any university that has an $18 billion with a B endowment, they're not cheap. They're not afraid to spend money. And I know people say, well, they had to do this, but they poured I don't know how many million into that stadium renovation,
right? And
the facilities and whatnot. And people are saying, oh, well, their facilities are old. Well, they're only 5 years old. So, so the stupid stuff that I hear people say, I mean, I swear to God, online, specifically in Facebook groups, message boards, and so on, is where brain cells go to die.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
I apologize. I'm getting.
Where's mine? Why didn't you buy for everybody else? You son of a bitch.
I should have, man.
So yeah, but anyway, but no, I think as far as Joe Rudolph goes, I mean, again, I don't have the time to thoroughly do research. I mean, I don't do this for a living. Ryan doesn't do this for a living, but I just think
I do this for a living. Actually, John, I do this for a living. No, I'm joking.
Oh, don't.
I do this for a living, but I don't get paid for it. If that makes sense.
Then it's not your job, so shut up.
It is my job. It is basically a job. I work like 60 hours a week on my channel, your show,
Okay,
a bunch of different shows.
you just busted out the Dairy Queen, right?
Yep,
All right.
just busted out Dairy Queen.
If I worked at Dairy Queen, I wouldn't call myself a 5-star chef, right?
Yeah. That is true.
So,
that is true.
but anyway, I think the bottom line is I think we have a very we have an interesting staff put together, and I think it's a good approach to try out different guys and see where they can go, and
Yeah.
So, but anyway, this is not about me. What other thoughts do you have, man? What else would you like to talk about while you're on?
I'm just glad that Tommy Reese is gone, honestly.
Well,
I didn't really like him.
Well, he was definitely inconsistent, and I would say this past season, and I'm not listen, I've made my comments and I've been pissed off. You guys who watch regularly, you've seen that.
Yeah.
But when I look back on it, because that's the thing, sometimes you look back and you realize, man, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have thought this way instead. He didn't really have much of a quarterback to work with this past year. And that's not a shot on Drew Pine, but neither him or Steve Angeli didn't see any time at all except for a couple of handoff snaps. But you're not exactly working with the cream of the crop when it came to quarterback. So I think that might have played a big role in in some of the struggles that he had this past season. But yeah, I mean, overall, he wasn't really improving. He was staying.
No.
He was basically
getting worse, if anything.
Yeah, I think he was getting way worse.
Yeah, I mean, I hate saying that, but all I know is myself personally, I don't wish any ill will towards him. I hope he can learn a few things from Nick Saban, and we'll see what happens in Alabama.
Who's to say he can't come back?
What's that, Ryan? You were breaking up there for a sec.
Who's to say he can't come back in the future?
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. If he improves his game and we have an opening, I'd take him back.
Yeah. What's your guys' thoughts of him at Alabama, though? Do you guys think he's going to do good there?
He is there to purposely make Alabama suck. That's why. I've seen people saying on Twitter, why would you leave your alma mater? That's why. He wants to help Notre Dame win a national championship by taking Alabama out of the mix.
Yeah.
All I know is if that really is the case, that's a genius move. But
well, they do call him the boy genius.
They call him Turnover Tommy. Is what they call him.
You know what's kind of sad? His first season as offensive coordinator was his best year, right? That was when he had Ian Book under center, who was probably the best quarterback he's had in his tenure at Notre Dame.
I think he's the most winningest quarterback, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll just say this with why Alabama, or the difference between here and Alabama is our head coaches. And this is not, I'm not saying, me, I'm a big Freeman supporter. I'm not saying anything bad, but him and Nick Saban are two different kinds of coaches. And Freeman is more of a player's coach, and he'll be nice, but he will get pissed when he has to be. Nick Saban, if Reese screws up under Nick Saban, is he going to get his ass chewed like no other?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
also, go ahead.
I was going to say Saban is going to make sure that there is accountability from his coaches. Not saying that Freeman doesn't do that, but he is going to take a very harsh approach with Tommy Reese.
I did want to say really quick, Sean, what people didn't talk about with the whole Tommy Reese leaving, and this kind of came out on Blue and Gold. There was a report that actually the reason Tommy left was because of tension between him and Marcus Freeman. I've seen a lot of people talking about it. Tommy, if people don't remember, Tommy was basically hired as a head coach of the offense, and he was hired before Freeman got the job.
Yeah, he's a Kelly leftover.
So when when it came to the season, going into Ohio State and Marshall, Freeman wanted to do certain things on offense and was trying to give advice to Reese at the time, and Reese didn't listen. Basically said, I've been here longer than you. I know what I'm doing. We're going to do what I want to do, even though you're the head coach. Freeman, was kind of too nice about it and was like, hey, I'm a first-year head coach. I'm going to let Tommy do his thing. We heard him in the press conferences where it's like, you got to trust Tommy that he knows what he's doing. Meanwhile, after the Marshall loss, that's when Freeman went, and I guess him and Reese kind of got into a little argument. And that's why the offense changed after the Marshall game, going into the Cal game, and then going forward towards the end of the season, that was what Marcus Freeman wanted to do on offense. So I'm not saying that's the complete reason why Tommy left, but I think that had a lot to do with it.
Well, of course, when you're losing to teams like Marshall, teams that you should never be losing to, and I will stand by that to this day. It's funny. It's funny. A few encounters that I've had with Marshall fans, they've actually kind of made me hate Marshall to a degree, but not really. Just those people.
Real quick, since Magnum's not here, my buddy Lucas, Oregon fan, told me if Marshall fans ever give us crap, all you just got to say is, I hope another plane falls into your university.
Oh, my God. Whew. That's not cool. That's not cool. Wow.
Hey, they went there with calling us like pedophiles and stuff for being a Catholic university. So, I mean, yeah, you kind of can't go that way and then not take it.
Well, that's true. That's true. But damn, I'm kind of at a standstill.
Sorry, I know Magnum's not here, so I had to step it up.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'm like, that blew me away. Like, holy shit. Anyway, back to non tragic things. Man. So, anything else from you, Golden Playbook? Any other thoughts? Because other than that, otherwise we have another one that wants to come on.
All I gotta say is that we shouldn't have lost those games, the Marshall game and the Stanford game.
Yeah,
should have easily won those games.
No, those are games that never should have been lost. Of course, we win those two games. We're at the very least in an NY6 bowl game.
Yeah.
But you guys saw it after the Stanford game. I make that video where I got really pissed and a lot of cursing. I was in a rage, and I'm not sorry for what I said. But the difference between me and the 1% is I say the stuff because I love the team and I have their backs and I want to see them do well. But sometimes you do have to be brutally honest. Like when coaches aren't doing their jobs, when players are performing badly, you have to say so, even if it's in a cursing tirade, which I can't complain too much. I mean, that did overnight get us like 50 subs. So let me ask you, Playbook, as a viewer, would you like to hear more screaming and anger and cussing?
Sure.
I mean, see, Ben and I's goal from day one was to do a family show, but if it makes better entertainment for you guys, we'll do whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty entertaining.
Well, the truth is, I hate getting like that, but
those are two. I was like that too, I was getting really upset. Couldn't believe what I was seeing, especially that Stanford game when took him like 3 quarters to score. That really.
Yeah, it's like what was going on in that game? Why, after you've shown all season long that you have this dominant running game? I get it. Your quarterback situation is not the best. It's not what you want it to be. But how are you not running up and down the field on these guys? It's just, and that was embarrassing. And then of course
It was because Pine was so set on throwing to Mayer that Stanford realized that and just decided to put 3 guys on Mayer, which then was like Pine was basically just hitting his head up against a wall and respecting a different result. So, I mean, that's what happened in that game. And it was a little bit too late when Tommy realized, hey, Pine's not doing his job. Let's just put it in our hands of, baby bus Audric Estime, which, if you go back and watch the second half, if Notre Dame does that the entire game, the game's probably not even close.
Yeah,
It
that's
shouldn't
true.
have been close.
Well,
I think we should have been up like by quite a few points.
Yeah. And I'll tell you one thing with the Stanford game, people can't be blaming Audric Estime for losing that game because we had so many opportunities to score before that.
Right.
It never should have came down to that. And I'll tell you guys one thing, what really cost us in the Marshall game was the offensive line not gelling.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't get squat going in that game.
Hey, you know what, though? Audric Estime never fumbled again after that.
That's right, he didn't.
Nope. And he said in his post game after the game, he said, I'm never going to fumble again. So, and he didn't.
That's true. That's true. All right, well, Golden Playbook, thank you for joining us, and thank you so much for being a regular viewer of ours. It means a lot to us, and we're going to go ahead and bring on our next I hate caller is the wrong term. Guest. Okay, we'll say guest. But no, thank you so much for being with us, and we appreciate the support from all our viewers. So it means a lot to us.
Yeah. I just want to say I enjoy your show. I enjoy like the raging and all that. Pretty entertaining.
Well, we got to cut loose a little bit sometimes, and let let raw emotion prevail. But I'd like to think we're pretty consistent.
Yeah.
We don't badmouth guys, but we tell the truth.
Yeah.
So, all right, buddy. All right, bud. You take it easy and enjoy the rest of the show for however long you stay on for. So thanks for coming on.
All righty, thanks, guys.
All right. All right. Ryan, you still there?
Yeah. The man, the myth, the legend. Golden Playbook.
Yes, a legend indeed. He is very, very active in our live streams, and it's always a blast to talk with him and answer his questions and comments. All right, so next one, another longtime viewer of ours. Let's bring in another man, myth, legend, Notre Dame 2164, but I think we call him the legend of dishes. 2164, you are on the air with the two Irish brothers on the Fighting Irish Power Hour. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing good. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, good deal. Yeah, all my dishes are done. All my dishes are done. So,
did you use the dishwasher?
I did. You got to pre-rinse. You got to pre-rinse first, though.
Well, let me ask you this question. When we talk about dishwasher, are we talking about the appliance or your missus?
Sean?
Both.
Nothing against her at all. It was a joke. Chill out.
Sean,
what?
if his wife divorces him in the next couple days, we know who caused that.
Feel bad.
Man, now you're gonna sue us, aren't you? If that happens.
I don't think you guys have enough money for me to bother with that.
You never know.
That's true.
We ain't gonna talk about it.
All right, let's face it. He's right. No, but what's on your mind, dude? It's nice to hear from you and come on. Nice and awesome for you to have you on the show. So what's up?
Hey man, I just wanted to say that the rant after the Marshall game, I absolutely loved that. I was feeling the same way at the time. I was so irate after that game. I could
I'm
not
not
believe
even
what was
joking.
happening.
I'm not even joking. During that game, and I didn't tell Sean this at the time, because I watch a lot of my stuff on my PlayStation, like through the apps like Hulu and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I was watching the game, and I had my PlayStation controller right there. After the game, I took it and I threw it against the wall so hard. And you know that moment where you're so pissed and you do something, and then it's like immediately you go from pissed to like upset and worried about something, and then you just immediately get more pissed because you broke whatever you just did. That was me.
See, I
Yeah.
don't. Well, and just let you guys know, that rant video of mine was after the Stanford game, not Marshall. I was pissed after Marshall, but I'm like, okay, let's see what we do from here first. And then when Marshall happened, I'm like, okay, screw this. I'm going on a rage. And
Was it after Stanford?
yeah, it was
Yeah,
after
it was
Stanford.
Okay. Okay. Well, either way, I loved it. I was so mad about both those games, man. And the Stanford game, I think it hit harder because
It's a
we
rival.
thought we had turned a corner after the Marshall game and we started winning and we beat, I think, was it BYU and
North
maybe North
Carolina.
Carolina?
Yeah, we beat two ranked teams back to back, and then we have a shit show like that happen against Stanford.
Yeah, and that it hit. I mean, Marshall was bad. It was. I mean, I was irate after Marshall. Stanford, that was a gut punch because I really thought we had turned the corner by that point. And I mean, luckily we didn't have a game like that the rest of the year. So I think Marcus Freeman did kind of take more control of the team after a certain point
Yeah.
and kind of make it his own. And I think he learned pretty quick that, yeah, I mean, you can give your assistants and your coordinators a certain amount of say so and authority, but at the end of the day, it's your team. I
Yeah.
mean, it's his team.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up too, because this goes back to the Tommy Reese discussion. Because Tommy, I mean, nobody can deny this. He had several good moments as a play caller.
Oh yeah.
But then you look at that Stanford game and the walking calamity that was, and it's like
You go look at the Marshall and Stanford games, right? Those are probably his worst games as the Notre Dame OC. Then you go look at his best games, which North Carolina, South Carolina, the game against Clemson, maybe Oklahoma State before they had the collapse in the bowl game in the second half. And the disparity between his best performance and the worst, that's
Yes.
a big disparity.
Yes, and that's the frustrating part of it is how good Tommy can be when I guess he's on his game or when he's in the zone or whatever you want to call it. But there's such a difference between when he's calling a good game and whenever you get the Stanford Marshall stuff where, I mean, everybody is watching that game going, just what are we doing?
yeah, it's like how does that happen? That's the $1 million question I ask, not just for Notre Dame, but being a Chicago Bears fan and the offensive coordinators we've had recently. It's like, what are they doing? It's like, are they doing?
They don't
this?
have an offensive line for Justin Fields. That's why.
Well, yes, I'm just talking in general. I mean, I get that, but I'm saying like with some of the play calling that I see, it's like
Sean, real quick, because this was a big thing that people. What do you think about Justin Fields being possibly traded?
They're not going to trade him. You'd be stupid to trade him after 2 seasons.
I heard like possibly you guys would trade him for Lamar Jackson.
No, they're not going to do that. I mean, the Bears gave up a first round pick to get him, so you're going to give him more than just 2 years. I mean,
I'm saying so what they're because the Bears have the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
So they're saying that because the Ravens still haven't signed Lamar to an extension and the deadline for that's coming up. So if they don't sign him soon, he's going to become a free agent.
I get that.
So it would make sense for Baltimore to trade him for Justin Fields, who is not Lamar Jackson. He's obviously not as good as Lamar Jackson right now. He's a young and up-and-coming star player who could be like Lamar Jackson in the right system. And also the Bears would have to give the Ravens their first-round pick.
That's not going to happen.
Right? You get Lamar Jackson, you get an MVP caliber quarterback.
But you have spots all over that Bears roster, especially on the defensive line and the linebacking core. It needs some help, and also you need some offensive linemen too. So they're gonna keep that number 1 pick. They're gonna trade down, get their absolute best deal. And
you wouldn't be excited to have Lamar Jackson?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't be excited, but it just based on principle. And I myself personally, I like Justin Fields. I think he can become something good.
He's the only reason you guys won the games that you guys did.
Exactly.
I was very impressed with Justin Fields the last part of the season last year. The last 3 or 4
You guys
games
almost beat the Eagles. Think about it. You guys almost beat the Eagles, who made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and we beat the runner-up in the NFC Championship, San Francisco. But of course, that was before they really got clicking. But no.
Hey, we don't talk about that. The Broncos beat the 49ers too. So, I mean, we don't talk about that.
But the bottom line is no. You're not going to trade your second-year quarterback. You're not going to trade the face of your franchise for after 2 years. It's based on principle. This team has so many other needs. You trade down that number 1 pick, and you get more capital, and you build this team up around Justin Fields. But real quick, since you brought up Chicago, and we'll get back to talking Notre Dame here. Mike Biederman asked me this question earlier. Sean, thoughts on the Blackhawks trading Patrick Kane to the Rangers? I'm not shocked. I mean, that whole core, with the exception of Jonathan Taze, they're gone. They've been in rebuild mode. They've been in rebuild mode now for like the last 3 years. So we kind of Blackhawk Nation. We all kind of knew it was coming. So I'm not surprised.
Man. Hockey is overrated. Not joking. We never got into NHL. But really quick, I wanted to ask you this, Notre Dame 2164, because I asked Golden Playbook the same question. In terms of the recruiting rankings and everything like that, do you think that there's a bias towards Notre Dame? Like I know that Steve Wilfong, who heads 24/7 and does their rankings, he's very pro Ohio State, which is why we see a lot of kids that commit to Ohio State, their rankings shoot up the boards. On3 is ran by a bunch of Southern people that are Alabama and Georgia apologists, which is why we see a lot of those kids who skyrocket. Do you think that there is some, anti-Notre Dame in terms of these rankings for recruits? Because they want to keep this notion that, hey, the top players in recruiting don't go to Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't get athletes. They have limitations. Do you think that there is a bias? And on top of that, do you think that's the reason is because they want to keep that notion that, hey, Notre Dame can't recruit these 5-star kids?
Well, I've really started paying attention to recruiting probably the past 3 years, I'd say. I mean, really started to pay attention to it. Before that, I was just a Notre Dame fan, and I paid attention to the guys on the field. I personally, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I personally think 100% that there is a bias. I have seen too many examples of guys who commit to Notre Dame and watch their rankings instantly drop. And I'm not talking like during times of the year where there's camps, where there's football being played. There's nothing going on. A kid commits to Notre Dame, and literally the next time the rankings come out, he starts dropping. Perfect example, Jaden Alsbury. The kid was literally a 5-star in some of the some of the ranking systems whenever we got him.
Mhm.
And by the time the 2023 rankings ended, I think 247 composite had him at like 200 and something.
Yep.
There's Drake Bowen. I'm sorry, that kid's a 5-star. That
Yep.
kid had
He's
one of the.
ranked outside the top 100.
Yeah, I mean that kid. He got as many awards as anybody I've ever seen as a senior
And
playing
he won
football.
the best linebacker award in high school football in the country.
Yes, yes, and I mean he went from a borderline 5-star in the rankings to outside the top 100.
Look at
I,
Brendan
I
Vernon.
mean,
Brendan Vernon was a 5-star when he committed to Notre Dame. Now he's
yes,
borderline a 3-star.
yes, yes, and the thing is, like, I think it's that way with the elite recruits. It
Mhm.
now, if you're talking about a recruit that's in the 300s or 400s, then I've seen some of those guys kind of get helped out by being committed to Notre Dame. But
Mhm.
when it comes to guys that are on the cusp or in the elite status, when I've seen way too many examples of those guys committing to Notre Dame and just almost instantly start free falling in the rankings. And a lot of times, like I said, there's not even any football being played. There's
And
nothing's going on.
to kind of go to that point, I mean, we've seen it not just this year, but we've seen it last year. Jalen Sneed, who was a 5-star linebacker, drops completely out of the top 100, drops from a 5-star to a 4-star. Who else? Oh,
Yeah.
the only guy in the 2023 class that did not drop out of the top 100 from Notre Dame was Jeremiah Love. And he didn't drop, but he also didn't move up. And if you watch that kid's tape, he is definitely a 5-star.
Oh
There's
yeah,
no doubt about it. He's a 5-star kid. If you tell me if he commits to Texas A&M or Alabama, he's a
oh
5-star.
yeah, he's 5-star without question. And that's the thing too, is it's not just the examples of the kids that commit to Notre Dame dropping like that. It's the kids that commit to Alabama going the other way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, kids that I'm sorry have no business being anywhere near a 5-star are ranked in the top 20 or the top 30, and and I'm not trying to bash on any of these kids. I mean,
No, we
these
get what you're saying.
yeah, these kids don't have anything to do with the rankings as far as that.
Well, let me ask you this. I don't know if you've watched too much tape of CJ Carr or Julian Sayin, because Notre Dame went after Julian Sayin as well.
Mhm.
But if you go there and you watch their highlights, and I know you're a Notre Dame fan, but if you even watch it just as an unbiased look, CJ Carr is 10 times better than Julian Sayin. But guess who
Oh,
the top quarterback is in the rankings? Julian Sayin. You know why? Coming to Alabama.
yeah,
That
Alabama. Yep.
it's bull crap. Sean, I kind of want to get your input on this too, because Notre Dame fans have been getting upset about this on Twitter for the past year or so. And I know that a lot of people say, well, the rankings don't matter. If CJ Carr is a 5-star, and he's really as good as what you Notre Dame fans think he is, then the rankings shouldn't matter. If he gets on campus and plays like a 5-star, why do you guys cry about the rankings so much? I care personally because it continues this notion to other recruits in the future, to coaches in the future, that, hey, yeah, Notre Dame does have limitations. People said Marcus Freeman was a better recruiter than Brian Kelly, but he still finished with the number 9 class.
Yep.
What does that say?
That's a Brian Kelly class. Blah, 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 blah. You know why he finished with the number 9 class? Because the guys that he recruited that were inside the top 100 and were 5-stars dropped once they came into Notre Dame, which then makes Notre Dame's recruiting ranking go way down. So, Sean, are you on the mindset of like, rankings don't matter? If they're as good as we think they are, that doesn't matter. Or are you on like, hey, it doesn't really matter, but it matters in terms of the narrative around Notre Dame as a football program.
I'll say this. I'm not saying that the rankings don't matter or that, the whole star system doesn't matter, but it's hard to take it serious basically for the reasons you just gave. I mean, now as far as the conspiracy goes, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, but it's just to just drop a kid that far down. All
CJ
because,
Carr dropped 200 spots.
Yeah.
200 spots. That's
absurd. That's absurd. And I get it. He hasn't played a down of college football. And as we've said many times, and as we all know, high school football, college football, two different games altogether. I get
but
that.
he's sitting on the couch, or he's not sitting on the couch. He's playing 7-on-7s against elite recruits, just like all the other elite recruits are doing.
That's a good point.
And those other elite recruits are doing the same thing and are getting boosted up 200 spots over him. That's what's insane about that.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point you brought up, because we were talking about that earlier about the whole controversy of he's visiting Texas A&M, but really he's just playing in 7-on-7.
7-on-7.
But I don't. It'd be easy to say that this is a controversy in the rankings towards Notre Dame, and we hear it all the time that the haters get sick of us, obviously, but we even have people within the fan base saying, drop the high standards that Notre Dame has, and Notre Dame refuses to do it. So and this may sound like I'm in a tangle here, but it all comes together. It's a balance of everything. There's definitely certain sources. Then this is what I'm getting at. There are definitely certain sources, certain people that are trying to basically fade Notre Dame out and say, hey, Notre Dame, your history's great, but your time is no more. Get the hell out of here. This is time for, as we're seeing with Nick Saban, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson. Those guys have been the top dogs for, the last 10, 15 years now. And, they a lot of people just want us out of the picture because they really think that we're not relevant anymore. And so I think maybe I think maybe the fan talk and the expert talk has something to do with the rankings, maybe, and why kids drop. It's not right why these kids drop that far, but just because you have a certain opinion of the university doesn't mean you should punish the kid for it. That's my.
Let me ask you this, Sean. Why do you think CJ Carr dropped 200 spots and dropped from the number 5 quarterback in his class to number 12?
Well, I know early on, because I was trying to keep up with him as best as I could, but I get busy just like the rest of you guys. I know he wasn't exactly having the strongest start to his high school season, to his senior season. I don't know if that's the only thing that I could think of why, but just because of that, you're not going to drop 200 spots.
And the reason that they asked the guy who runs on 3, and his excuse was, well, that's not that we don't think CJ Carr is a top talent. He's done really well in the camp setting. He's done really well on the 7-on-7 setting. He's done really well in the high school football setting in his games. But we just think there are other players at different positions that are better than him. So
No, there's not.
You got 200 people. Yeah, okay. And we look at how important the quarterback position is.
If you can show me 200 people in the 2024 class better than CJ Carr, I'll quit talking about football forever.
There's definitely a bias, without question. I mean, we've seen it with the SEC for the longest time.
It's not just Notre Dame, though. Like, I do a show with my buddy who runs the Maze Madman channel. He's a big Michigan fan. We do a show every Wednesday together, and we talk shit. We get the rivalry sparked, and we talk about our teams and everything. But me and him both agreed it's not just Notre Dame that this happens to. Michigan gets screwed over as well with their recruits, mainly on 24/7, because the guy that runs 24/7 is an Ohio State guy. So anytime Michigan gets a 5-star, they drop to a 4-star or a 3-star. So it's not just, Notre is happening Notre Dame. We're seeing this across college football. If you're not Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, screw you. Like your recruits will just suck because you guys can't get those guys.
Well,
I'll
and
tell you something else I've noticed too. Sorry, Sean.
no, you're the guest. You speak first, man.
I've noticed too that it's a lot worse for kids who commit to Notre Dame and commit early, like
Mhm.
Brendan Vernon and CJ Carr. Because a lot of times, now this is just what I hear, is that a lot of these kids, when they commit to Notre Dame and they basically shut the recruitment down, they basically tell everybody, no, I'm hard locked to Notre Dame. I'm not visiting anywhere. I'm not doing anything. It seems like those kids tend to get hit harder than the kids who commit later too.
Well, and I'll say this. I mean, with that situation, I mean, let's see. Carr committed to us what early 2022.
It was March
last
of
year?
2022, last year.
Okay. Well, I will say this. I'm not saying that I agree with that take of why they punished the early enroll or like the early commitments like that. But it is true that March 2022 to 2024 when he arrives on campus, that is an eternity.
Yes.
But to drop 200 spots.
Yes. Oh no,
even a year's time is just.
That's absurd. That's absurd. All I'm saying is, almost 2 years before Carr gets
Unless he's playing like Graham Mertz, then he should not have dropped 200 spots. Now, if he's throwing like 6 interceptions a game, then I can understand it. But like, it's not like he didn't have a good season. He took his team to the semifinals in the state. They were still undefeated, even though he wasn't playing very well in the beginning of the season. But he turned it on late.
Yes.
And I don't understand. I don't know what these guys see, but I watched his tape. This guy might be the greatest quarterback to ever put on a Notre Dame helmet. Like, that's how good CJ Carr is. And I understand he hasn't stepped foot on campus yet, but just watching his tape, Notre Dame has never had a quarterback like him.
Hey,
You
there's
can say Brady Quinn.
No harm.
Yeah,
he has that potential.
There's no harm to be excited about recruits. You should be excited. I mean, I've seen some clips of CJ Carr as well, and I'm excited. But of course, you guys know me. I don't get fully excited until they sign on the dotted line.
But I did want to say the big thing that I think the rankings do matter about, and we all know the names. Ryan Wingo was a big Notre Dame lean when CJ Carr committed in March of 2022. Ryan Wingo, a 5-star, wide receiver, funny enough, was going to commit to Notre Dame, I believe, when he was on campus for was it the Cal game or the Marshall game? He was going to commit. Then the rankings came out, I believe, after the Marshall game, and his ranking went from a 5-star to a 4-star.
And we lost 2164.
But he dropped from a 5-star to a 4-star. CJ Carr now drops. And guess what's happened to Ryan Wingo's commitment or his recruitment? He went from a heavy Notre Dame lean to now Ryan Wingo is crystal balled to end up at Tennessee. You know why? Because Tennessee has a 5-star quarterback. And people will say, well, the rankings don't matter. The rankings matter in terms of recruiting. Because if you have the cachet that comes with, hey, I'm CJ Carr. I'm a 5-star quarterback. I want you to come play with me at Notre Dame. That has now hey, I'm a 4-star quarterback, CJ Carr, playing at Notre Dame. Come be great with me at Notre Dame. And now on the other side, hey, I'm a 5-star quarterback, top 3 in my class. My name's Nico. Hey, come over here to Tennessee and we can win a national championship at Tennessee. There's different cachet to these kids. And while rankings may not matter with the on-field product, they do matter in terms of helping you recruit. We've seen it with Alabama. Alabama had 4 5-stars like a year before the class of the 2023 class ended. And those 5-stars helped get Keon Keeley away from Notre Dame.
Well, and it's star power. And I'm not talking about the stars on next to the player's ranking. I'm talking about like star, flashy. celebrity type kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean, Notre Dame was
does-
going to get.
it does
Go
it does help like Marcus Freeman too to be able to go into a recruits. Marcus Freeman being able to have Notre Dame in the top 5 in recruiting, to just be able to say, we've had a top 5 recruiting class the past 2 or 3 years or whatever. I mean, that does mean something to
To these
recruits,
kids,
to the kids. Now, like Sean, what you were saying, I don't, however many stars a kid has doesn't make him better or worse when he gets to the university.
Right.
If he's good, he's good no matter what the rankings say. But there is something to be said for, having a 5th star beside your name to recruit other kids, or Marcus Freeman to be able to say that we've had top 3 or top 5 recruiting classes, and if that 2023 class had been ranked the way it should have been ranked, I'm not saying we've been top 3, but we probably would have been top 5.
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, more than likely. Yes. I agree with that. I agree.
and like we've seen it also. I mean, there was an article that came out like 6 months ago where Carnell Tate, who was the number 2 receiver in the class of 2020 or 2023, him and Dante Moore were both going to commit to Notre Dame. That was basically, they had discussions, and Carnell Tate came out after he committed to Ohio State and said that was the plan. Was him and Dante Moore were both going to commit to Notre Dame. And then CJ Carr commitment happened, which kind of rubbed Dante Moore the wrong way, pushed him towards Oregon, also because of the money. And Carnell Tate was like, okay, well, if you're not going to go to Notre Dame, I guess the plan's ruined, and I'm just going to go what's best for me then. Because he didn't want to go to Oregon, so that's why he ended up at Ohio State. But to think that Notre Dame could have had Dante Moore, Carnell Tate, Keon Keeley, Peyton Bowen, that's 4 5-stars right there. That should have been Irish, but because of other circumstances, whether that be NIL, whether that be family stuff, whether that be stuff not going through, whatever, and it makes me so frustrated, Notre Dame fan, because the national media will still say, well, look at this class for Notre Dame in 2023. It's a solid class, but it's a typical Brian Kelly class. That's just not true.
No, it's not true.
It's just not true. Because Brian Kelly would have never landed Jeremiah Love. That just doesn't happen.
Probably.
No, that's a kid. That's a kid that Brian Kelly would have been like, I'm not even going to try. Drac Bowen would have been a kid that, before Marcus Freeman got there, people don't know this, Drac Bowen wasn't going to commit to Notre Dame. He was thinking SEC or bust. That was his mindset coming out of high school. He even said himself, I had no interest in Notre Dame. I wanted to go play SEC football. Marcus Freeman changed that for him. That's a guy that Brian Kelly doesn't go get. So
yeah, and we even pointed this out before, like Brian Kelly, he did get lazy with his recruiting. And from what I heard, and I've said this before, so I'm sorry if I repeat myself, but I can't stress it enough. It sounded like two demographics that Brian Kelly was not hitting on was, one, the private Catholic schools, which you think would be Notre Dame's bread and butter when it comes to football, and two, he wasn't going into the inner cities where there is a lot of talent.
Also, there was another thing that came out a week ago, because an article came out where Deion Sanders, I guess, said publicly that he doesn't like to recruit kids that come from 2-parent households on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know why, but that quote came out because he wants them to be hungry. I guess
that's stupid.
Brian Kelly came out with a quote saying that, well, he didn't like to recruit kids from underprivileged households. So
that's stupid both ways. That is so stupid both ways.
That's stupid to say both ways.
Because you're saying, because you got one side that's saying, oh, I don't want to recruit a kid from a 2-parent household. So one, Deion Sanders is saying that thinks it's a good thing that a kid doesn't have one of his parents in his life.
Because I guess it drives them more to make them want to be more hungry and get after it.
That's still stupid, though. You're saying that like he's saying that a kid from a 2-parent family can't be hungry as a player. That's bullshit. I mean, that's just overall stupid thing to say. Even, but then again, it's Deion Sanders, and he's about the show. So I mean,
he says things just to get a rise sometimes.
Yeah, and Brian Kelly saying that. Oh, so what are you saying, Kelly? You don't want to go into the inner cities because they're, you say they're underprivileged. What are you saying, that they're going to be trouble because they come from that environment? That's bullshit too.
A lot of Notre Dame's recruits in the 2023 class come from underprivileged households. So I mean, a lot of those kids didn't come from a rich family.
And I love to see those kind of kids make it.
Yeah,
I love to see that.
Yeah, and it's great to see any of these kids make it. And the thing is, you have these two elements. You have different backgrounds here, but if the talent is what you share, and that's what I think has really helped this team gel like they have.
And Marcus Freeman even did a radio thing with I think it was the Lucky Lefty podcast, and I didn't think he would ever say this because Marcus Freeman's a very coach speak type of coach.
Yeah.
He said on the podcast, quote, Brian Kelly would have never went after the guys or got the guys that we got in the 2023 class.
No, he's right.
That's just the truth.
It is.
And I was like, whoa, coach, you just said that? Like, I've got a lot of respect for you calling out Brian Kelly like that.
Well, you see, and I've heard a few stories like this with Brian Kelly, because I don't know how I know I've shared this before, but for roughly like 25 years or so, I had a relative who worked at Notre Dame with the football team. Mm-hmm. And my relative, he's been through, and look, I'm not trying to just hide things, but I just, with the issues that I've had here on YouTube before, I don't want to make my problems anybody else's problems. And I'm very protective of my family, but I've heard a few stories like this, because he was working there from the time when Lou Holtz was there, and I think he finished off in 2013 or 2014, I believe. But yeah, let's just put it this way: he said that Brian Kelly was the biggest prick of a coach he's ever worked with. He could be very lazy with his recruiting, and let's just say they clashed heads a few times.
Mm-hmm.
See, so, and that's always one thing that I don't know if I could ever forgive Brian Kelly for, is the lazy recruiting. I can understand. I can understand whenever somebody goes out to recruit and it's not a good fit. They don't get him, whatever. But I will never question Marcus Freeman's, want to, when it comes to recruiting, his effort when it comes to recruiting.
He has that drive.
Yes, if we don't get a kid, it's not because Marcus Freeman's not trying any effort. Right.
And it's not like Marcus Freeman also, he doesn't take no for an answer. If a kid commits somewhere, he still stays on it. He calls them, sends them graphics. Yeah. Because you never know when you can flip a kid.
Yep.
But no, it's so frustrating, because I'm not one of those people that be like, Brian Kelly is a terrible coach. He was a good coach. He was a great coach. He wasn't elite, but yes, he was a great coach.
Yeah.
But he just did not recruit. And the thing that pissed me off the most about his tenure wasn't during the time that we left, or that he was there. There wasn't when, we lost the playoff games, because I don't think that was necessarily all his fault. But what I do blame him for is two things. The reason we lost those playoff games wasn't because we had terrible players. It was because Brian Kelly did not recruit. And a lot of those teams, if you go and watch, we're playing Alabama in 2020 with Ian Book, who was a 3-star quarterback. Meanwhile, they've got, the kid who's starting for the Patriots right now, and Mac Jones, who was a 5-star kid. We're going against Devontae Smith, who it might end up being one of the best wide receivers to ever play in the NFL. I mean, who do we have? We had in the past, we had Julian Love. We had Julian Okwara, Romeo Okwara, guys that were beasts and were on par with those guys that played for Alabama. The difference was when those guys got injured, especially you go watch that Clemson game. That game was close. Julian Love goes down, and guess what happens? Notre Dame had no depth behind Julian Love, and we got absolutely torched because we didn't have a four-star guy that was good enough to make up for Julian Love's
Yeah,
absence.
there was nobody could
There
there
was no room
nobody
for error.
there was no experience behind him that could step in and fill that to the fullest
Mhm.
that you could.
And so that's and the second thing that pissed me off the most was when he left. Instead of just leaving and saying, LSU's a better opportunity for me, he had to put this whole narrative out there about Notre Dame that, hey, you will never win a national championship at Notre Dame. I tried. You can't recruit there. There are limitations, and you will never, just the whole point, you will never be able to win a national championship at Notre Dame.
Right, because
So
if
then
Brian Kelly can't do it, then nobody can do it.
What the
especially
hell?
with his half-ass recruiting.
What the hell was going on with the 12 championships we had before then?
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. I mean, yeah, that's true with the 12 championships, but I will say this: where you can kind of fault the university is from the time when Lou Holtz retired between the time that Brian Kelly was hired. That time period was a mess. I mean, who thought that, for starters, who thought that Bob Davie was going to be the quality coach that could win a national championship? You start, I mean, I guess I could probably just stop there, but you have him. You bring in Tyrone Willingham, who in his first recruiting class at Notre Dame, I think only 8 guys had at least 1 star next to their name.
Mm-hmm.
And then Charlie Weiss, okay, he gave a glimpse of hope, but his success quickly fizzled and became mediocre. And then you bring Brian Kelly.
Yeah, Charlie could recruit, but that's about all Charlie could do.
He couldn't coach, but he could recruit. But really quick, because I do got to hop off here, actually.
Okay.
I did want to say one more thing, and this is why I think the whole notion that Notre Dame can't recruit and can't win a national championship is stupid that Brian Kelly put out there. Because while he didn't recruit, Brian Kelly he does get credit for getting the most out of the players he did have. Still having a bunch of 3-stars on your roster and winning 10 games a season, that's still a pretty big achievement.
No other Notre Dame coach has done that 5 straight years.
But I think this helps. This actually just kind of hurts his whole point that he made when he left. Okay? You made 2 college football playoff appearances. 2 appearances that a lot of teams don't have, that have more talent than Notre Dame in terms of star ratings. And you made the playoffs with a bunch of 3-stars. Okay? Give Notre Dame the 4 and 5-star kids that Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson have. What do those 2 playoff appearances turn into? They start turning into a semifinal win. They start turning into a national championship. But if you're not going to go out there and go get those kids, then you're just going to be stagnant in the water, which is what happened. Yeah, and I think that's what Brian Kelly's goal was. I think when he was at Notre Dame, he's like, we can make the playoff. That's a win. Okay? Anything after that, we're just happy to be there. And I think that's how he looked at his tenure at Notre Dame.
Well, you could tell after the playoff loss to Alabama this last time. I mean, anybody who tried to ask Brian Kelly, what do you think went wrong? What do you think? That those type of questions, he just flew off the handle.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah, like he started getting mad. Like, we've had a great season, and nobody's saying you didn't have a great season.
It's like, what happened in this game? What went wrong in this game?
Right.
Well, and a lot of the other thing that pissed me off in those press games, in both the Clemson and the Alabama game, was we just weren't prepared. Alabama and Clemson, they got a bunch of guys. Okay, you had a month to come up with a game plan for those guys. I don't care how bad, how many stars you have by your name. You scored 3 points against Clemson. The Alabama game, you played not to lose the entire game, which is why the score looked a lot more respectable than it actually should have been, because Notre Dame was milking the clock the entire game. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's so frustrating. But I do gotta go really quick, Sean. I gotta go like right
All
now.
right.
So
No, this is probably the best time to call it quits anyway, because I gotta have my supper yet, and I
but
gotta be up
Notre Dame
in the morning.
2164, we need to have you on again, man. Like it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank y'all. I really enjoy the show,
Well,
and you guys keep doing your thing. Okay.
Well, it's like we told. I know Golden Playbook's probably still with us, but 2164. We tell all with this. This applies to all our viewers that have supported, Ben and myself, and now with Ryan joining us for these live shows every Thursday. We've been grinding at this for since January 2020, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I think we're at like 583, 584 subscribers, but it doesn't matter if we have one subscriber or thousands. We do this for you guys, and it is an absolute blast to do it. We have a lot of fun with this, and because of guys like you, Golden Playbook, Walter, and so on, it's worth it.
And I also did want to say before you get off Notre Dame 2164, for you and anybody watching, go over to Week Star Productions. I just posted a video a couple days ago for the best of XFL Week 1. Go over there and give that a view. Let me know what you guys think. Every view is very much appreciated. I spent a lot of time and effort putting those videos together, so if you guys could, that'd be amazing.
I will do it, man.
I'll check it out too. And but again, thanks a lot, dude, for coming on. We're gonna make this a weekly thing where we let people come on and share their thoughts. And you, Golden Playbook, we definitely like to have you guys on again for sure.
All righty, sounds good, man. Thank y'all.
Yep, thank you for coming on, dude. See you next week.
See you next week.
All right. Well, on that note, everyone, we're gonna call it quits because Ryan does have to go. It's not because you're whipped, are you?
Nope, it's because I gotta go play a game. It's game night.
There you go. Where are you guys playing?
Something on it's like Brain something on the Nintendo Switch. So.
Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about. All right. Well, on that note, everyone, I am ND Sean 45.
And I am Ryan Week Zero Productions for Vel.
Good night. God bless. And go Irish.
Go Irish.